Hi, this is Daryl Kulak, and I'm here with Dr. Hong Li,
Hello.
and we're going to walk you through a couple of examples of big data and its recent examples that have been in the news. So hopefully this is applicable to everyone, and hopefully whet your appetite with what we'll talk about on Tuesday, and bring up the questions that you have about your own organization and your own places where you've looked at big data and maybe had problems or there's been confusion. So our first example here is with Hurricane Sandy. So of course last year we had the terrible hurricane that hit the East Coast, and so came in and hit this whole area. A number of groups were looking at trying to find some real-time data that allowed them to pinpoint where the most aid was required, and to be able to find that as quickly as possible without having to do real-time reconnaissance into the area with physical reconnaissance. And so what the idea that they had was they looked at the cell phone activity, how much email was being produced, what else was it?
Text message.
Text messages that were getting produced, and look for the biggest concentration of this data in the different areas and find out where the problems were, and then push the aid towards that area. And so with this approach, they pinpointed, of course, the whole Manhattan, New York City area as the place that required the most aid based on this data. And as it turned out, they were completely and entirely wrong. This area certainly had a lot of problems, but the force of the hurricane came right into the New Jersey shore, and this is where the most aid was required, not up here. So how did they get it wrong? Well, there were other contextual elements that caused them to overstate the amount of aid that would be required here. So of course, population is higher here. They did adjust for population, but even after that, what they didn't realize is even with the population being adjusted for, the concentration of mobile devices, the mobile devices per person or per square mile was hugely higher in this area than in the area where the hurricane hit the hardest. And so that caused them to completely misread where the aid was required, and the aid would have been sent, if they had used this data, the aid would have been sent to the wrong place. So that was one example. Another example, of course, our friends at Google are huge fans of big data, and one of the, you could say, humanitarian uses that they often tout with the Google search engine is that they are able to find out where flu activity is happening even before hospitals or doctors even know, because they look at the people who are searching for the flu symptoms or influenza or different things, and based on those searches they can find out where the activity is, and they can even pinpoint it to say here are the places where the flu is coming soon, and it's kind of like almost a leading indicator rather than a trailing indicator. Very fascinating. Sounds very, very exciting. So these are the numbers from last year. This is on the Google website. What they don't tell you is that the flu trends were about right, but were about double what the actual number was. So this was Google's estimate. They said that it would be like 11% of people had the flu based on this information, and the actual numbers were closer to 6%. So they overestimated by double, and using their big data approach, if if the government had said, okay, thank you Google for this information, now we're going to put these resources where they're needed, and we're going to use your numbers for our allocation of vaccines and medical supplies, they would have spent 2x more than they required if they had used Google's leading indicator. So it was a huge problem. Google, the news reporters have asked Google what the heck happened here, and Google has not replied with their reasons, with their explanations, and there is a problem with their big data approach. But since they have not published what their approach was, their methodology, we can't say what the problem was. So on Tuesday, we'd like you to think about the issues that you have with big data, some of the questions you have about it, the concerns that you have about relying on it, the problems that you've had in the past. Bring all of that to our session, and we will walk it through, and Dr. Hong Li will be there and will be the facilitator, and we'll talk through the different examples that people have, and see what kind of conclusions we can come to. Is big data all it's cracked up to be, and what are the pitfalls and the kind of the traps that we can easily fall into with this extremely hyped new technology. So this is Daryl Kulak, Dr. Hong Li, and we'll see you on Tuesday.